everybody, it's Sarah, and today's video is a video that I had intended to upload at least a few weeks earlier. However, with how busy the past month was for me, or 1.5 months, I obviously did not manage that. But today we're going to talk about my most anticipated releases for the second half of 2023. I have already done one, obviously, for the first half of 2023. I uploaded that, I think, in December still, maybe at the beginning of January, one or the other. But this one is all about the books that were published, are going to be published from July onwards. I'm saying were published because I do still want to talk about the books that have already been published in the first 2 weeks of July, which obviously aren't that many, but there's 3 of them. And overall, I think I have like 20-ish books that I want to get through, so let's get into it. As always with my anticipated releases, I won't talk too much about what they are about because usually I go into books pretty blind. I maybe heard something good about them, then I put them on my TBR, on my anticipated releases TBR, and then I forget about them, and by the time I pick them up, I don't know what they are about anymore. Obviously, if there's any sequels, I know what they are about, but to just keep this video as short as possible, I won't talk too much about what these books are about. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense, but the intro already is too long, so let's just get into it, starting with the books in July that have already been published. And the first of those is Blood Over Bright Heaven by M.L. Wong, which came out on the 1st of July. Obviously, M.L. Wong is the author of The Sword of Kaigen, which is probably my favorite fantasy standalone book. It's a book that I adored and loved, and that was my favorite book back in 2021, and I am so excited for this other, I think it's also a standalone adult fantasy, and I just need to buy it, need to get to it. It's a need, to be honest. Next, I have The Chased Heir by Sarah Hashem, which comes out, or which came out on the 6th of July. I believe this is, well, I know it's also adult fantasy. I'm pretty sure it's also adult fantasy, but I believe it's like Middle Eastern or Northern African, like Swana type inspired fantasy. I'm not quite 100% sure in that regard though right now. I also believe there might be some enemies to lovers going on in this book, as far as the fan art goes that I've seen, but aside from that, I don't know anymore yet, although I will probably know sooner rather than later because I believe The Chased Heir is the Illumicrate book for July, which I'm getting. Next, I have Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long, which came out on the 11th of July, and I need to sneeze. Or maybe actually I don't, who knows. I have Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long still here on my TBR card. I haven't read it yet, but yeah, I don't remember anything about the book. I don't think I even read the synopsis, to be honest. I think I just put it on my TBR because the cover was pretty, although I don't think the cover was like that outstanding. But yeah, I just put it on my most anticipated releases because it's an adult fantasy written by a woman or a genderqueer person, and I just keep my eyes out for those in any case. Next, I have a book that has not yet been published but that I'm already reading, and that is The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Romero Lacruz, which comes out on the 25th of July. I do have an arc for this one, but also this was the June book for the Illumicrate box, so I do already own it as well, and it's lying over there on my bed. I'm currently reading it. This one is adult fantasy, but within a South American style setting. So far, I don't want to say too much, but to be honest, I'm not enjoying it too much so far, but once I'm done with it, I'm sure I will upload a full review. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm looking down so much in this video, I have my full list of anticipated releases down here. After that, I have The Weaver and the Witch Queen by Genevieve Gornichech, which also comes out on the 25th of July. Genevieve Gornichech is the author of The Witch's Heart, which was a book that I highly enjoyed. The Witch's Heart was a retelling of Norse mythology. I do not believe this is directly a retelling of Norse mythology. However, it is set within a Norse-inspired setting, or it's historical fantasy set during the Viking Age. One or the other. I'm not quite sure right now. Then I have Jacqueline Carey, Cassiel's Servant, which comes out on the 1st of August. I will not get to this one this year probably. I am doing my Kushiel's Legacy read-along this year. If you're interested in joining us, the links to the Discord where I'm hosting it are down below. And we have just started on the second trilogy. We're taking 2 months per book, so we're gonna, you know, take the end of the year to finish the second trilogy, and then we still need to read the third trilogy, and then I'm gonna get to Cassiel's Servant. But as far as I know, or as far as I gathered, Cassiel's Servant is a retelling of the first book, Kushiel Start. Maybe it also goes into the second book or something, I'm not quite sure. But we follow the story from a different perspective. We follow the story from Jocelyn's perspective, who is the male love interest main character in the series. And I am very interested to see where it goes, more so when we get to the second book, or the plot of the second book, if we get that, because there's stuff where Jocelyn is, you know, very much separate from Phaedra, who is our main character. But yeah, that's it for Cassiel's Servant. Then I have my most anticipated release of the year. I have Labyrinth's Heart by M.A. Carrick, which is the third and final book in the Rook and Rose trilogy. It comes out on the 17th of August. I am gonna read it before that. I do have an ARC. And I finished my reread of the second book yesterday as of filming this video, and I am struggling so much to get started on Labyrinth's Heart because I have an e-arc of it obviously, but reading, I don't have an e-reader, so reading on my phone is just not a reading experience that I typically enjoy, so I tend to only use it for arcs or books where I don't really care that much about the experience surrounding, you know, the story or how I'm reading it. But with this one, I just really care, and I want it to be perfect so much, but I know it's not gonna be perfect, obviously, and so I'm struggling to start it right now. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet. I'm gonna have to read the ARC, or I'm gonna read the ARC, not have to. I'm allowed to read the ARC. I'm still so excited about that. But the likelihood is high, if I have the time, that once I have the physical copy in my hands, I will reread it right away. So yeah, that's it for my most anticipated release of the year, hands down. After that, we have He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan, which comes out on the 22nd of August, which is the sequel to She Who Became the Sun, which is actually up here. You just can't see it, or maybe you can just see it. It's like this yellow book right here. She Who Became the Sun is, I don't want to say it's a retelling of Mulan, but you know, it's very loosely inspired by Mulan, and it's a loose historical fantasy set in, I believe, 13th century China. I don't remember exactly which century it was, following someone who was born as a girl but who takes over the identity of their brother and then kind of becomes very renowned in this story. And I did not enjoy She Who Became the Sun as much as I thought I would. I still gave it 3 stars when I first read it, so I am going to be rereading it because I read it 2021, and 2021 was a mess of a year for reading for me. And then I'm gonna get to He Who Drowned the World, and I am actually pretty excited to get to it. Then we have actually quite a few books on the 22nd. The next book that comes out on the 22nd of August is another sequel, and that is The Midnight Kingdom by Tara Sim, which is the sequel to, what was it called? I reorganized my books sometime in June, and I haven't filmed since I reorganized, or I've hardly filmed since I reorganized, so right now I don't know where the books are. Yeah, City of Dusk. And I sometimes need to look at them to know what the books are called, but City of Dusk was the first book, The Midnight Kingdom is the second book. I forgot what the series is called right now, and it's written too small, too little on the spine for me to read. But yeah, this is also adult fantasy, and it's set in the city that is kind of cut off from gods, and because of that stuff is happening, and you have a bunch of heirs to these noble houses that get together to try to do a thing. That's about as much as I remember of the first book, to be honest. Then also on the 22nd of August, I'm not sure if I can call this like an anticipated release, because I didn't enjoy the first book that much, to be honest, but I do want to read the second book still. And I just saw that I only wrote the series name here, so I don't know what the name of the second book is, but it's basically the sequel to The Art of Prophecy, the second book in the War Arts saga. Maybe let me just go to Goodreads very quickly to see The Art of Destiny. That was what the second book is called. So the second book is The Art of Destiny by Wesley Chu. This is adult high fantasy inspired by mostly Chinese influences, I believe. I mean, not that I am knowledgeable enough about Asian and Eastern Asian culture to really tell the differences, but I believe from what I've heard it's mostly Chinese influences. And yeah, didn't enjoy the first book that much, but I still want to read the second book and give the series a second chance. And then the last book that comes out on the 22nd of August is actually an anticipated release for me, and it's an anticipated sequel. It's The House of Odysseus by Claire North, which is the second book to Ithaca, or the second book in a series, which is called The Songs of Penelope. It's the sequel to Ithaca, which is a loose retelling of the Odyssey, except you can't really call it a retelling of the Odyssey because it kind of follows the stuff that we are not shown in the Odyssey, and it follows the women of Ithaca, mainly Penelope, the queen of Ithaca, as she is waiting and trying to keep Ithaca together, while Odysseus is on his, should we call it, journey. So yeah, I'm very excited for this one because I did really enjoy the first book. Then the last book for August that we have is on the 31st of August, and that is The Phoenix King by Aparna Verma. This one is, if I remember correctly, South Asian inspired adult high fantasy, and that's about as much as I know about it. I've seen a few of the TikToks that the author made, but that stuff just all looks the same to me constantly, so it doesn't stay in my brain for very long, I have to be honest. Then I have a book that I don't even remember, like I have literally no recollection of this book, of this title, of this author name, or what the cover to this book would look like, so that's what I mean with sometimes I just have books that sound interesting to me, I put them on my list and then I forget about them. But it's The Hanging City by Charlie Ann Holmberg, which comes out on the 5th of September. That's it. I know nothing more about this. After that, I have another one of my most anticipated releases, and that is Mammoths at the Gate by Niveau, which comes out on the 12th of September. This is the 4th book in the Singing Hills series, which is a series of 5 novellas following a chronicler who goes and collects different stories, and each of the books is a different one of those stories. Then I have a sequel that I actually already have an arc to, and that is The Words of Kings and Prophets by Shauna Lawless, which comes out on the 14th of September. I actually recently filmed my review of the first book. Well, recently. I filmed it when I filmed my last video. But yeah, I am very excited for this one. This is historical fantasy set in Ireland at the end of the 10th century, around the time when there were still some Viking kings in Ireland, and I really enjoyed the first book, so I'm excited for the second one. And as always, I have to mention it, I just love the titles of these books. Then moving on to October, on the 3rd of October we have The Doors of Midnight by Ad Araverdi, which is the second book in the Tales of Tremaine and the sequel to The First Binding. And yeah, I enjoyed the first book. I was very intrigued, and I am very interested to see where the second book is gonna go. After that, well, Labyrinth's Heart is my most anticipated release of the year. But this next book is probably my longest anticipated release of the year, and the release that's gonna just make little child me so happy. And that is Die Farbe der Rache, The Color of Revenge in English, by Cornelia Funke. And it comes out on the 12th of October. I don't know if or when it is going to be translated into English. I suspect it's going to be. But for those of you who don't know, Cornelia Funke is the author of Inkheart, and this book is the 4th book in the Inkheart series. It is a sequel to the Inkheart books. I don't know what the contents are going to be. I don't know what type of story this is going to follow, where we're gonna go with this book, but I am very excited for this one. Also, there was a whole mess with the covers. It at first wasn't supposed to be this beautiful black cover that fits the German covers, like the previous German covers, but it was supposed to be a different cover, which was just ugly as fuck. And there was so much backlash that they ended up changing it. So yeah, I think the other covers are maybe still gonna be published, but yeah. Anyway, I'm very excited. After that, we have Slay by Laurell K. Hamilton, which comes out on the 7th of November. And this is going to be, I believe, the 30th book in the Anita Blake Vampire Huntress series. So yeah, that's gonna be exciting. And then I have 2 books left, one of which I think actually was pushed back to 2024. I think The Ashfire King by Chelsea Abdullah. It was supposed to come out in November of 2023, but I think now it's being pushed back to 2024. I just wanted to mention it in case my information was wrong. And lastly, I have Warrior of the Wind by Sui Davis Okungbowa, which comes out on the 23rd of November, and which is the sequel to I wanted to say Warrior of the Wind, but that's obviously the book. It's the 2nd book in the Nameless Republic series and the sequel to, what's it called? I'm so bad sometimes. Like my brain just legitimately just goes blank and I completely forget what books are called. I forgot what it is. Son of the Storm. I think that was the 1st book, which is an adult high fantasy series inspired by different African cultures, but mostly different Nigerian cultures. And then I don't have any books for December. I kind of, you know, at the beginning of the year, I still actively look for new releases, but after that, it's just whatever comes across my timeline, and there were no books that came across my timeline for December. And so with that said, tell me in the comments down below if you share any of your anticipated releases with me. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All links to my social media as well as to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, where I read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman or genderqueer person per month, will be left linked down below, so go and check those out. By the way, we are reading Mask of Mirrors, the 1st book in the Rook and Rose series, so if you want to catch up with my most anticipated release of the year in time to get onto it, then that book club is a good place to go. Also for the Kushiel read along, obviously. And yeah, with all of that said, I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!